welcome everybody. It's the Ryno and Curt show back, coming to you live from the private room at Duff's Smorgasbord Buffet. Today's issues, we got my review of the Batman. We've got Coach K's final game. We've got white people trend. We've got some throwback to the 90s on sports and a little top Columbia food choices. So Ryno, what's up, man? How's it going?
It's good, man. It's good. Big day for you yesterday. Coach K's final game in Cameron. In Cameron indoor. Brought them all out. Hundreds of players, celebrities. We'll talk about that. First, give me the breakdown. You know, you got a tradition with your nephew Grant. Y'all been doing this for about a decade, checking out the new movies on the scene, a lot of the superhero type movies. So you went and checked out the Batman. Give us a breakdown. What and plus more than that, just give us a breakdown of what's going to the movies like now. I don't think many people have been to the movies in probably a couple of years. How much does it cost? Is everything pretty much the same? And plus, how was the show?
Yeah, seemed to be back to normal at the movies. Business as usual. Maybe the tickets went up a little bit. It seemed to be about $13 a piece on the tickets, and between basically two tickets, a Pepsi and two Pepsis, two popcorn. That was probably another $30. About $60 at the movies. Everybody seems to be back in the swing of things, looking for the big blockbuster movie. But yeah, man, I like the movie. It's getting good reviews. Robert Pattinson's fine Batman. It's a darker take, probably the darkest take on Batman. I won't get too deep into it, but Batman's my superhero out of all of these guys. That's who I grew up with. But I'd put it right under the Christian Bale Batmans. I still like the Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale Batman movies without going too deep into it. But good movies worth checking out. I wouldn't advise taking like a kid under 10 to it.
Good disclaimer on the don't take your.
I'm just looking out for the kids, man.
Okay. So how crowded was it as far as like capacity in the theater?
We went to the 4:00 on Friday, kind of beating the it wasn't that crowded there, but the crowd was coming in as we were getting out. It's about a 3-hour movie too.
Wow. Okay. So $13 at the window. That's about normal. Whatever. I hadn't been in a while. I think the last one we went and saw was Star is Born. That's how long it's been. We went to the Charlotte Theater where they bring you food and beer while you watch the movie, and that's pretty annoying.
I know you're a big Lady Gaga fan, so that doesn't surprise me.
I am. I honestly, she has some great pipes. I enjoy the Lady Rock every now and again. Sometimes, the Miley Cyrus, the Lady Gaga, every now and again I'll belt one out on my ride to work. But anyway, okay, the Batman. Curt gives it 2 thumbs up. If you was interested, check it out. Get on out there. Don't take the little youngins in there. Added a little darkness to it, but cool. I'm glad everything's getting back to normal. I'm hoping we get on the road and explore some more this year. We got our passports last year before this shutdown. We had planned a trip to go to Canada, and then they closed the borders. So we got a 2 passports we're looking to burn up and at least go somewhere and eat some food. Cool. So the weekend, the whole ESPN, was pretty much focused on Coach K. Last game, Cameron Indoor, brought back probably 200 players or so. Brought out the stars. You had the Kim Jong, you had the Jerry Seinfeld, Adam Silver, bunch of celebrities. Not only that, but then Shane Battier's and the Grant Hills and the laundry list of who's who in Duke lore. I'm hoping that Jerry Seinfeld had to spring for the ticket. I'm hoping they didn't give him.
I think they said his daughter goes to school there.
Well, still, I hope at least he had to buy the ticket because you got, we saw reports of people paying up to $70,000 for a pair of tickets. Coach K his first year at Duke made $40,000, and somebody bought a pair of tickets yesterday for $39,000. So it's just to put it into perspective, a year's salary to watch Duke play their Coach K's final game and lose, which really probably is another kick in the balls. But good career, five national championships, 15 ACC championships, something like that. A lot of
12
All-Americans.
Final Fours.
Yeah, I mean, the accolades are out there. I put in the group last night. I think he underachieved to a certain degree, and that's not a disrespectful thing. I know Jared took it as like me kicking Duke when they're down, but he's had a lot of dudes, man. He's had a lot of number one recruiting classes, and then even at the Zion year, they didn't go as far as you might have thought. Losing to the Gamecocks in Greenville in 2017. I don't know. It just seems like looking back, you would think over a course of 30 years or so, maybe 10 titles. But either way, good career. Always, some people love him, some people hate him. For me, and not having a affiliation with either, I like Duke. I like the fact that they piss off a lot of people. I like that. Coach K has evolved over these years and not been that fiery Bobby Knight type. He's been more that caring, a high five, clap it up, more of a teacher than an asshole that he was his early years. So I got all respect for him. And I really honestly think that John Shire is going to step in and take it to the next level with some youth. So what's your take on it? You was more invested in this than me. I'm sure your Saturday was around this whole event, the game day, the interviews with ex-players, JJ Shane, and all this here. So what was the whole day like for you, the only coach you've ever known to coach Duke University?
Yeah, I watched a lot of it all morning, the game day. And one thing that messed me up, that was it Texas Kansas game that was on before it that went to overtime. I wasn't aware all the ceremonies and stuff was on another channel. So I was because usually they'd tell you that while you're watching the game. So I didn't realize until it went to overtime that it was actually on another channel. So I kind of missed a lot of the stuff I wanted to see before the game. But yeah, overall I just enjoyed the whole thing, seeing Wojo and Reddick and Leitner and Langdon, Grant Hill, all the guys, man. It's cool just to see them come back and talk about Coach K's effect on their life. And I think after that loss last night, the whole thing afterwards, Coach K, man, he came out and apologized for the loss, and when he kind of made some jokes about the team, and they showed the team over there, and you could tell they got chewed out after that game because there was no smiles or anything. You could tell he would have rather not even done that. Like he was probably ready to run those guys for a little bit or something.
I feel like this post game ceremony saved them probably 20 more minutes of butt chewing, and like we talked about, it probably saved them a lot of stadium steps or something. I'm sure he probably let them ride last night, and they was back there this morning before we got up at 5 a.m. Doing some baselines or something, or tiger trails, or he looked like he kind of softened up as it went when he got into the family thing. But immediately, like you said, he told the people, no cheering. We lost. This is disappointing. I apologize. These guys over here got to do better. And maybe it is a learning experience. I don't think that one game changes anything. I think if you win or lose, I think there's holes in Duke's game. I think we've seen that all year. But there's holes in everybody's game because everybody's one and done. There's no team with that experience like we used to see in the past.
Yeah, I think going back to your underachieving, I feel like he's adapted the best out of old school guys into the new system. And even if you do have that top recruiting class every year, it's not like those guys stay. So you have to basically get 18-year-olds every year and try to make a championship team and 64 team tournament. I mean, not many have done it better other than John Wooden, and there were 16 teams in the tournaments back when he was winning them. So
yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, I'm not knocking it. I just feel like, I don't know. I guess if I would have guessed and not really known, I would have said maybe 8. or 10, but it's tough. Like you said, it is tough. The turnover, back in the day, the value Duke had was they had the Elton Brand who would stay another year. They had, the Reddicks, and even Grayson Allen, he stayed he stayed his 4 years. So you always had some leadership, but now it's just a stepping stone to the NBA. And now even like the kid at Ridgeview High School, he put out his top 6 where he may go, and the 6th one was the G League. He may even just bypass it altogether and go straight to the G League, which is crazy to me, especially with the NIL. I feel like now players, we've had this whispers forever about players getting paid. Now they can legally get paid. So why wouldn't you go to Duke? But then again, I guess you still are held to a certain standard where in the G League you could do whatever you want. What's your take going forward with Shire? What you thinking? I mean, I know they got a good recruiting class coming in. Who's going to replace Shire on the bench as his position? Or I guess everybody moves down.
I guess Nolan Smith moves right into the Shire spot, I would guess. It looks like, but I don't know.
Who goes on the back end to replace?
Because on the back end, I don't know. That's to be seen. I would like to see Marshall Plumlee come out of the military and come into that system. I think he'd be good.
Maybe. It's funny. Looking in the crowd yesterday, there's a whole lot of options. There's a lot
of options in the crowd. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, most of these guys are millionaires. Battier, of course, he's made his money, and JJ's doing his own thing. And Wojo's made plenty of money as a head coach. A lot of guys have been head coaches. I think there's 12 head coaches right now in Division I that have come off of Coach K's tree, plus several that are not coaching right now. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. I'm not sure a guy that's got plenty of money wants to go back in at the bottom end, unless coaching is a passion of his. So be interesting. I seen the post non-shaking hand of the Chris Carrawell to Hubert Davis. I wonder what that's going to lead to future-wise. I guess
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there was a big thing on the MSN page about how Hubert put his hand out to shake and Chris Carrawell just went around him. So I wonder if that'll be addressed or that'll be pushed aside. Maybe they got some long-standing beef for the years. Let's go ahead and do, if we're going to do restaurants at the end, we'll do Duke right now. The Mount Rushmore +1, the top 5, your starting 5. If you throw it out a team. Before
we get to that, let's get into the humor we had last night, group texting about Coach K's grandkids.
I didn't know if this was I didn't know if you ain't the most controversial fella. So I was leery about throwing that out.
It's not controversial, man. It's just to anybody watching.
Well, tell everybody what you're talking about. We had a group text going while we was watching the ceremony.
My wife even said her mom and Coach K's granddaughter had a half shirt on, more or less. Her belly and back and everything was exposed. My wife even said her mama needs to be beat for letting her wear that to the ceremony. I mean, this is some guy's, end of a guy's 40-year career somewhere, man. And
millions and millions.
The grandkids got on like backward hats, sweatpants, and the daughter, I don't know. I feel like just some khakis and the Coach K t-shirt would have been good enough, man. I mean, that Coach K probably turned around in that speech and probably saw her. The first time he saw her that day was probably irate, I would think.
You got to think, we've gotten lax, even when we were little, when you was going to church, you was wearing your Sunday best, and now we're all right with, wearing shorts and t-shirts to church, which I guess is fine. You can use what you want. But like you said, the grand stage, 16 channels are broadcasting this from every angle. And, Papa's, being rewarded and retired jerseys and the last game and national television. And you don't even make an effort to get like your top 20 outfit. You going to Dollar General to pick up some Clover Valley crackers or something.
Yeah, she looked like she was going to Cassett Country Store to get a couple of vape cartridges.
That's exactly. And the other one was dressed about as bad. And like you said, all the boys were dressed like they were going to the Plex to jump around on the trampoline. It's like none of the moms took any thought and like wear a button-up shirt. You don't have to wear a tie. Wear a polo shirt. Wear a pair
They
of
don't even have to wear
khakis.
that. They could have worn the K shirts that everybody else had on.
That's true. That's true. That was embarrassing. I don't know that people are as critical as we are, but they should be, because that was a bad look for Coach K's
I haven't
dogs.
checked the Twitter and stuff for that, but I guarantee there's got to be something on the internet about that.
You would think so. People are kind of personal about jumping on kids, but they probably should jump on kids on that one. All right. Hopefully we see some residual effect of that since we brought it up. I'm sure Covino and Rich will be talking about it on Tuesday or Wednesday. That's usually how it goes. We bring up a subject and they knock it out midweek. But throw me your Mount Rushmore. I'm interested to see how far you go back, how you space 1980s, mid-80s to now, and who's your top five, because I think the one I'm going to have is going to be a little different. But go ahead and shoot me from point guard, shooting guard, however you want to do your forwards, and then big man.
I'm going to go point guard Hurley, even though I find it, you could go Jay Williams. I mean, I feel like when you look back at it, Jay Williams is kind of underrated. All he accomplished. Jay Williams, pretty great player of the year.
Read a quote from a writer yesterday that said Mike Krzyzewski said that Jay Williams was the best player he ever had. Was the best player he ever had. Even though he didn't play as long as like Hurley and those, but he's the best player he ever had.
You forget how good he was, and going into the NBA before his motorcycle accident and everything, he was like an Iverson type of player in college. I feel like scorer, point guard type of guy. But I'm gonna go Hurley just because that's more my era. I mean, they were all my era, but I'm going Hurley. At 2, I'm going JJ Redick. I know you could go Johnny Dawkins, but I'm going Redick, the all-time leading scorer in school. Then I'm gonna go Grant Hill at my small forward, and I'm gonna go Battier at power forward, and I'm gonna go Leitner at center because he did play center. That's mine. I mean, I think that's pretty standard. Nothing shocking there.
I think it's standard, but I think what we and I'm with you. Like you said, all those guys are pretty interchangeable. You could even go Wojo if you wanted to. Hurley leads the school in assists for a career. He played the full 4 years. They were dominating. Grant Hill, you got to go Grant Hill. You got to figure a place to put Leitner. I'm gonna tell you one. Danny Ferry, man, is up there. Yeah. I think we overlooked how good Danny Ferry was. Danny Ferry was like, pretty much like a Larry Bird type. He could shoot really well, and he evolved in the NBA as shooting the ball from the outside. The more hair he lost on top, the further his range went outside. It seemed like he got further and further out shooting with the Cavs, and he had a decent career and a GM. So I'd like to fit Ferry in there somewhere, but like you said, man, you run up the court with Hurley or Jay Williams. Depending on, maybe Jay Williams more of the newer style, but Hurley was a stud in them 80s to the 90s, that era, that first really winning era. Tommy Amaker is another one I guess you could throw in there, but I don't think he's as dynamic as either one of those guys. You definitely gonna throw JJ Redick in there. This game has evolved into a shooting game, and he's the best one out there. Definitely Leitner, and because there wasn't, I mean, who would you take if you was going true center? Would you take a Plumlee or a Sheldon Williams or
Brand?
Brand? I'd probably take Brand. Yeah, if you had to pick a traditional center, Brand and Boozer both played tough down low, but Brand was really good. I think Brand was probably the best traditional center.
Leitner played center that before Parks came there, pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean,
he went up against Shaq and Mourning and stuff when they played.
I know, but it's just like the NBA now. You really don't have to have a center. It depends on who you play. There's only 2 or 3 teams that's got a traditional center. Most of you just got a big guy who's not very good. So, yeah, Leitner.
I wouldn't put I'm not gonna put the one and dones. I mean, I can't put Zion over any of these 4-year guys.
Nah, I can't put Zion over anything, man. Zion's stock, man, is just like, this is done for me, man.
I mean, Grayson Allen was the only active player there yesterday. I'm not sure why Zion couldn't make the trip.
I don't know what his deal is, period. Like, maybe, he may be in a state of confusion right now, man, because he's still young and he's got a lot of money, but he hadn't really been involved with the Pelicans for a while. And I'm sure he's catching a lot of hell down there. And then they're making fun of him with the float with the fat float and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I don't know why he couldn't have been there. I don't know why a lot of these guys could. I mean, Grayson Allen, all these guys got plenty of money, even though RJ Barrett, plays with the Knicks. I'm sure he could have got on the jet stream and been there had he wanted to, but there's not as much connection when you're a one and doneer though.
Yeah.
You're not even there. You're not even on campus for 6 or 8 months. You're not really, you're just there. The sole purpose you're there for is to get to the next level. So I kind of understand it. All right, well, we'll see what they do in the tournament. The tournament start this week in the ACC, SEC, and all that. Gamecocks yesterday lost to Auburn. Clemson beat Virginia Tech. Both of them teams are really going to need a deep run to make any kind of tournament. I think Duke's looking like a 2 seed right now. We'll see what happens if teams in the Big 10 or Big 12 win their conference. They might shuffle teams around. I think it really comes down to there's some good Big 10 teams, but I don't know if they're the best. There's some good Big 12 teams, Baylor and Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas Tech. Those teams have been playing pretty well. Arizona is really the only Pac-12 team that's got a shot. UCLA hasn't played well this year at all. I think Gonzaga's soft. They got that big Chet kid that's like he looks like every center for most white high schools. He's like 6'11", but he only weighs 175. A team like Baylor would eat him alive down low. A team like even North Carolina, I think, would body him up pretty good. So it's going to be interesting to see this week how it evolves. And I guess next Sunday it'll be the selection show.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Next Sunday will be the selection show. And then that following Thursday, we'll kick it off. And, even though basketball is kind of watered down, it hasn't taken away. I think it's kind of added the possibility of a team like Gulf Coast or somebody like that beating one of these teams like a Virginia or one of these, even like Duke. I mean, Duke's susceptible to getting beat or Gonzaga, any of these teams.
Yeah, all these teams are. All these top 10 teams, man, they've all got these losses, to teams they shouldn't have lost to. So, I mean, it's one of these teams, that's got a bunch of seniors always seem to do good in the tournament.
That's true. And that's what we'll see. That makes it interesting, makes it fun. So looking forward to that. Now that there isn't football, which is usually there's the games themselves and then everything that's going on with the NFL and college, that gives us a lot more to talk about. Now that baseball is locked out, we really don't go into the minor sports. We're going to do a little thing like kind of spark from what Curt, Brian, and Jared do with their podcast, going back. They go back in a week and a year. We're just going to go back in a year. So every week until stuff starts kicking back up, we're just going to go and summarize the championships, the winners in a particular year. We're going to start with 90 because I think most people remember 90. We could go back to like 83, 84, but I don't think many people remember like, Jack Morris and, Dr. J. Actually watched Dr. J and those things. We know all about the Bird and the Magic, but it's not as familiar as these 90 and up for most of these guys. So we'll start with the national championship since you got that Duke background. UNLV beats Duke 103-73. That UNLV team was phenomenal. Stacey Augmon, Moses Scurry, Larry Johnson, Anderson Hunt. That was a really, really solid basketball team that ends up playing Duke again the following season. But the number one seeds that year were UNLV, Michigan State, Oklahoma, and UConn, back when UConn used to be a solid power. Matter of fact, the Clemson Tigers were a 5 seed that year. And they made it to the Sweet 16 before they got knocked out by UConn. Dennis Scott, remember Dennis Scott shooting it up for Georgia Tech back in the day. He led the whole tournament in scoring. Anderson Hunt from UNLV was the MVP. Curt, you remember this game, 1990?
Yeah.
I'm sure you was a Duke
Yeah,
guy.
I remember that one. That was not much of a game at all. That was a terrible game, a blowout, which made the next year so much sweeter because when they met up again in the Final Four, I don't think anybody thought they had a chance again. So that was actually probably one of the best before the Duke Kentucky game. Actually, that I would say that's probably my favorite basketball moment watching college basketball. Because, I mean, yeah, the Leitner shot was great, but beating UNLV after getting blown out by 30 the year before, man, I remember just being ecstatic after that.
Yeah, I remember this game. I remember, and I used to have the old UNLV T-shirt with all the jerseys. I grew out of that probably about 15 years ago with a fat belly. But anyway, I had the little T-shirt with UNLV, the shark on there because Jerry Tarkanian. Yeah, and we'll talk about that championship in '91 next year for Duke. But yeah, I remember watching that thinking Duke has no chance at this game. They just got beat by 30 last year. UNLV is the same, but maybe that goes to show you what Coach K is about. You know, he changed it up, and then they end up winning that game the following year. We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, we were young guys then too, man. What was that? Probably like 9th and 10th grade, right?
Yeah, right. I was in 9th grade. Yeah, 9th and 10th grade.
Yeah, I remember. Well, I remember the following year after Duke came back and won. I remember just going out in my yard and playing basketball at like 11:30 at night.
That's a good thing to do. Well, only other really headline about this particular year in college basketball was Hank Gathers died. And you remember that? Marymount, they were scoring like 100 a game. Him and Bo Kimball was a heck of a combination scoring. He died, and there was a lot of tribute that year. But UNLV beats Duke by 30, and that was how that year ended in college basketball. We'll jump over to the NBA, which the Pistons beat Portland 4-1 that year. That Nasty Boys team, if you look down the line, was what
Bad
team?
Boys. Nasty Boys were a tag team.
No, Nasty Boys is the Reds bullpen. Bad Boys, yeah. I got the Reds won the World Series that year with Nasty Boys. My bad. Yeah, the Bad Boys. Yeah, but I mean, it was more of a team deal. Like, you know, Isaiah Thomas would score a good many points. I think we don't remember how good of a scorer Isaiah Thomas was. I mean, in that 5-game series, he scored 29 3 times, but Lambeer, Blue Edwards, they lost Rick Mahorn that year to the Timberwolves, but Vinnie Johnson, and then Dennis Rodman took over for Rick Mahorn and became the Defensive Player of the Year that year. That's where I think Dennis Rodman pretty evolved into a solid stopper. You know, what do you remember about that Pistons team?
Yeah, I love that Pistons team, man, and everybody just had their role. Like Joe Dumars, you know, was 50 greatest players of all time when they had that list come out. I mean, he was the guy that did as much as you could do with Jordan in the playoffs. He was defense, not a stopper, but he did more than most. And people forget how good a scorer he was. But I mean, they just had everybody: James, Buda Edwards, Vinnie Johnson, all those guys. I mean, John Sally.
John Sally played a big role in all those championships too. And that Portland team was solid. I mean, you had Drexler, Terry Porter, Jerome Kersey, Cliff Robinson, Kevin Duckworth. I mean, they had a solid five.
Duckworth.
Huh?
Yeah. That Piston team would just beat people up, man. That's a lot of like what they talk about now, the younger generations. The talent's probably better now, but just the toughness and diving on the floor.
Like we said, up until this point right here, Jordan didn't do anything. You know, you know, Jordan came in the league 84. He was in the league 6 years, didn't do anything. And you know, we kind of scan over that to look at the 6 championships, but he was in the league, 14 years or so. And for 6 years, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything in the East. He didn't beat Bird. He didn't beat the 76ers. He didn't beat the Pistons. So there's
it was basically the 80s in the Eastern Conference. When we watched basketball in the 80s, it was the Celtics were, and then the Pistons, had to scrap until they finally overtook the Celtics, and eventually the Bulls got a team together to take away these Pistons. But man, those Piston teams were great.
That's a fact. All right, now since I brought it up, the Nasty Boys is the Cincinnati. This is probably one of the most. I don't even know, man. I don't even remember this World Series. I remember it, but it's like anytime the Reds won it sucked to me because their teams were just so. I don't know. They wasn't star powered. You had the Reds on one side with the Lou Piniella as the manager. You had the A's for Tony La Russa. They had just won the championship a few years earlier. Then they lost to the Dodgers and the Curt Gibson, yank around second base. They had the Nasty Boys, Norm Charlton, Rob Dibble, Randy Myers. So once they got to the 7th inning, it was pretty much over. Their stud dude was Eric Davis. He could do it all. Number 44, a skinny kid, played center field, could play all over the outfield. Barry Larkin went to the Hall of Fame from this team. And your kid, your boy, Chris Sabo, was out there on third base with them big goggles and the crew cut. The A's had Canseco and McGuire. They acquired Willie McGee, which is one of my favorite players all the time, because I've never seen a guy who could walk pigeon-toed and run as fast as he did. And then Dave Stewart and Dennis Eckersley. They swept the A's. Anytime
was Ricky Henderson on that A's team?
No, I think that was one of them. He had jumped, and then it's like he was on a 2-year deal between them and the Yankees. He kept going back and forth. So he was on the championship team, and I guess it was 88. Jose Rio was the MVP. And this is not a lot to say about this championship. Eric Davis was a really good ball player. He was probably as good as any. Him and Darryl Strawberry were two really good ball players in that late 80s, early 90s in the National League. Barry Larkin I always thought was overrated as a shortstop. He didn't hit a lot. He's nowhere near Cal Ripken or any of these guys that have power. He was good defensive, but he wasn't much better than Sean Dunston, in my opinion. So not a lot to talk about. There's not a lot of storylines on this one in 90. The University of Georgia did win the College World Series that year. So not many people probably remember that. But they won the College World Series. So that's all about baseball we're going to talk about until baseball gets started. We'll jump into that football world. 49ers. San Francisco beats the crap out of Denver, 55-10. Joe Montana, 5 touchdowns, another MVP. Jerry Rice, 3 touchdowns. The interesting part about this is near the end of Joe Montana as the quarterback, San Francisco, and Bill Walsh had retired. George Seifert comes in, who in the future will coach the Carolina Panthers. But they win that Super Bowl. The defense held John Elway to 108 yards and 2 interceptions. What you remember about John Elway, Curt? I think I don't remember him being marketed like he probably would now. And I know the marketing wasn't the same, the social media aspect, Twitter, whatever, but that dude won. I mean, he was the Michael Jordan of football, in my opinion. He never lost a championship. He got a handful of rings. I wonder why Joe Montana wouldn't push more. And maybe none of those guys were. I think Jerry Rice wouldn't push as much as he should have been either. Those guys were the elite of the elite. And still, you could argue are the best of their position, 30 years later.
Yeah, I feel like Joe Montana was marketed. I feel like Joe Montana was on a lot of commercials. I don't remember seeing Elway on. I feel like Joe Montana was on LA Gear commercials. I could be wrong.
He had the boot. He had the shoe, the hiking boot. The Joe Montana brand hiking boot, but I don't know if that was while he was playing or when he quit.
I'm not sure. He's on Skechers commercials now. So,
well, he's on one of them the blue emu, huh?
Copper Fit.
Well, he's on that, and he's on some kind of, I can't remember. It ain't being gay. It's a different kind. Him and Ronnie Lott's in the same commercial, and they kind of make a joke about Ronnie Lott about to put some of that cream on Joe Montana's groin or something goofy. But I just don't know, man. I don't, and like I said, it's a different era. We only had 3 channels back then. There was no NFL Network. There was no Red Zone. So maybe there just wasn't enough eyes on there.
Seems like Elway would have been perfect for a toothpaste commercial.
All them teeth?
80s. Yeah.
All them big teeth?
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Shannon Sharp, the only 2 guys I've ever seen, look like the mascot of their team. They get big horse head, look like a Bronco. So San Francisco wins another championship. Not a lot of storylines around this. San Francisco wins 5 championships right there in that stretch from 81 to the 9. Steve Young comes in, takes over. And those teams were peppered with Hall of Famers from Rathman and Roger Craig, Dwight Clark. On the defensive side, Charles Haley, Deion Sanders, Ronnie Lott. They just kept rotating good guys in there. Guys, you pick up a Deion Sanders and that just makes you so much better. Charles Haley won, I think, 6 championships between San Francisco and Dallas. So anyway, we'll move to college football, and this is a interesting one. This is the year that they split a national championship, back before they actually played each other. when Colorado won the AP vote, Georgia Tech won the UPI vote. And so Georgia Tech got one more vote in that poll to end up being a split, which was interesting because, Georgia Tech had a rough season. I mean, they tied. It was 11-0-1. They tied North Carolina 13-3. 13-13. They only beat Virginia Tech 6-3. And so it was an interesting 11-0-1. And it was a year where the bowl set up. ACC plays Big 10 or Big 12 plays whoever. The 1 and 2 never play each other. And then you got to vote. So it's hard to tell. Like this would be.
Was this the Colorado team that had the 5th down?
No, that was a little later. That was with the quarterback who ended up
I didn't research this, by the way, if you couldn't tell. I didn't research this.
Yeah, that's fine. No, that was the kid who went to, I can't remember now. He went to Pittsburgh. He could throw the fool at the ball. No, this was the Darian Hagan, Eric Bieniemy years. Eric Bieniemy, who's now the offensive coordinator at Kansas City. He was actually an All-American running back. But they ended up beating Nebraska in the Citrus Bowl 45-31. So they get a split. Colorado ends up being 11-1 and 11-1 that year. They lost to Illinois 23-22. And then they beat the hell out of Notre Dame. Or they beat Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl 10-9. Back when 10-9 was a score of a football game, But they had that controversy now, man. If you had voting and you split a national championship, Twitter would just melt. I feel like with all the controversy we have now anyway, I think Twitter would just fall to pieces. Luckily, they didn't have Twitter back then. But this is the year where Ty Detmer wins the Heisman. Rocket Ismail is All-American. Sean Moore was the quarterback at Virginia, and Herman Moore was the wide receiver who ended up going to the Lions and doing big things with them. So it's a weird year. I think this is what kind of spurred the BCS to coming up and changing the way we do things so we don't have split national championships. I think we still had a split BCS Sears Trophy kind of thing with Southern Cal with Pete Carroll, but it wasn't. They didn't give Southern Cal that championship, where this one here is a split. Bobby Ross, the coach of Georgia Tech, was the coach of the year. And so pretty cool. I didn't realize that was 90. My brain doesn't go back and remember things like that. But
we're getting old, man. All that doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah, man, that's 32 years
32
ago
years
right now.
ago.
Yeah. So that's all we got on that. That's what we're going to do every week. Next week will be 91. We'll go through the champions in college and pro football, NBA, NCAA, and then World Series in college. And then and if there's anything to talk about as far as the College World Series, we'll discuss it. It'll be a while before we get to 2010 and the Gamecocks. And then we'll talk about the real World Series. But just a little throwback to filler until baseball gets back in here. And then these free agents start signing in NFL. Aaron Rodgers is still a big topic that's out there, but there's really no new information going forward.
Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, I did hear a Charles Barkley quote that said, he is the pretty girl that you have to tell them they're pretty every day.
Charles Barkley
that sounded about right.
Yes, he's right. Charles Barkley went off about 4 quotes right in a row. He's like, he even said, I'm making an executive decision for TNT. We're not putting the Lakers on TV no more. They suck. We don't need them on there no more. And then he made a crack about that LeBron that came out and said he wants to play a year with Bronny. And Charles said, as bad as the Lakers are, Bronny could start right now on that roster. So Charles is just steady. Charles wonders why he's not liked when he's seen. I guess he forgets things he says everybody hears. So when he rolls up on Jordan at the 75 best players of the century, and he wonders why Jordan don't even acknowledge him. Maybe that's why. But I mean that's his job too, is to say crazy things. One big topic, and I think you guys brought it up on y'all show, in 1990. Mike Tyson was bigger than life, was probably the biggest thing in sports worldwide. He gets beat by Buster Douglas, which sent his career into a spiral, and he was never the same. I feel like personally, Mike Tyson's not as good as we remember him. I think he's a Ronda Rousey. I think he fought a bunch of opponents that were either old or not very good. He was dominating, but I don't think he could have handled that era with Muhammad Ali and Foreman and all them.
Biggest thing I remember from Mike Tyson in middle school was the whole thing of people paying $60 for pay-per-views that lasted 30 seconds.
Right.
Like they never saw a good fight out of Mike Tyson, but that's all I remember. That's mainly what I remember people talking about. Yeah, I got the fight. It didn't last 30 seconds.
Well, that's the comparison with Ronda Rousey. Her pay-per-views were like 15 seconds. And it's the same thing, but the level of competition. Like he beat Michael Spinks in like 91 seconds, but Michael Spinks was past his prime. And it'd have been interesting to see if those guys could have fought in the same era with a Muhammad Ali or with even
hard
a
to
George.
Compare eras.
It's impossible. It's impossible to compare eras. So that's our sports 1990s. There's probably a lot more tidbits. If you want to know what happened in music that year, hit these boys. Curt, Jared, and Brian have a Paging Rick D's podcast as well, and they run
on
you down
Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where all fine podcasts are streamed.
There you go.
Hit the like and subscribe button on that one too, and this one.
There you go. There you go. All right. So now we're going to talk about white people trainers, I reckon. What's your take on the nutritional tea, Curt? What you think? What you know about it?
I've never had one, but I see a lot of pictures of them on social media. People posing with them. So obviously it's a thing. This is your white people trend. This is yours. You came up with. I see the expensive coffees as well. I'm a coffee guy, but it's mostly coffee at home. I do pay a little extra for certain. Like I pay probably double what you would buy a bag of coffee at the grocery store. But it lasts me a month, so I'm not paying $8 a pop for anything to drink right now.
How much does the coffee at the Circle K cost when you don't make it at home when you stop right there at the Smile?
I think it's probably like $2.
Okay, $2. That's
less.
Reasonable.
I don't know. I've been making it at home. So
you're a Keurig guy?
No, I'm not a Keurig guy. It's got a coffee maker.
Oh, really? Coffee
I get
maker?
About a $14 bag of 12-ounce bag of coffee. Lasts me about a month.
What brand?
I've experimented with the different coffees lately. I've tried the Black Rifle, the Caffeine in Kilos, which is kind of a more weightlifting, promoted by weightlifters and whatnot. But I like this company called Bones Coffee because I drink it black. And they've got different flavors, man. They've got a lot of crazy flavors. It's no sugar to it, but like they have like French toast flavored and maple bacon, a lot of crazy flavors, man.
So it's flavored with no cream,
no sugar, just yeah.
So it's not straight black. It's got a little bit of a taste to it.
It's got a taste to it, but it's no sugar added to it. So
okay.
They have like cinnamon bun and.
Oh yeah, that's about the only way I could drink it too. I'm not a coffee guy, but anyway, the white people trend is the biggest thing to fuss about on Facebook right now is like gas being $3.50 a gallon, and people pissed off about that. But then they hold up a nutritional tea with collagen and all these other things in it for $7, which if you do the math is $28 a gallon. So you're mad about $3 gas a gallon, but you'll pay for some Skittles infused tea. And what really pisses me off or gets me, it doesn't really piss me off. I don't care what you do with your money. I just think you're a hypocrite when you fuss about one thing and you do the other. Is these Fruity Pebble protein shakes, which is absolutely no good for you. You put Fruity Pebbles into anything, mix it up. And the biggest thing about protein is it's meant to, if you take the protein and go to the gym, it works. It's like putting nitro in your car if you run your car, but if you go sit behind a desk, you're just gonna get fat. And it looks like that's what most of you are doing. You also spend enough money on Botox and everything else for your face that the collagen tea ain't doing no good. If you go spend a couple $100 a month getting shot up in the forehead, you can just drink a Mountain Dew. It doesn't seem like it's doing you much any good. I just don't understand the price. Like, there's a lot of options. Like you right there with your Bones Coffee circumvented the cost of how much it costs out the window. $7, man. That's a lot for something that tastes like Skittles and probably doesn't have very much value. I've seen a lot of talk about it on social media about these places popping up, and they're there just to pretty much push whatever they're selling. But fake outrage, fake outrage of like gas prices. This gets me when you're drinking a $7 cup of coffee or $7 protein something with fruity pebbles in it, or the collagen tea. You can go to McDonald's and get a dollar tea. That's where I'm at. So I don't know. It's we're mad about some things and we throw away money on others, but I guess we all do that. It's just funny, like you said, seeing it on social media makes me laugh. That you're so proud that you're drinking collagen tea to go sit behind a desk at work, or the protein shake to go sit on your ass and gain about 20 pounds. It's not COVID weight. It's that protein shake. You're paying extra to get fat. Just a PSA from me.
Keep
That's
going.
about
I
all.
like this.
Hey, that's enough of that. I thought you was gonna come in. I did like the fact that you
I ain't
got
touching that.
some options. I like the I didn't realize you went to the Black Rifle. I've seen that a good bit. I see it around town. I see people online talk about drinking it as well. So I didn't know. I thought you were still going through the McDonald's and getting the coffee with the sugar and the cream and rolling on. I didn't know you was getting up and making it yourself. It's pretty good information, especially with the flavored coffee. You want to take away the sugar and the cream, you can add cinnamon bun flavored in there. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Mount Rushmore was going to be Duke, but we're just going to throw something out there. Top 4 Mount Rushmore restaurants when you're in Columbia. You go out for a date. You just go out for a day. Where you stopping? And we probably got pretty much the same. This is what we pretty much in the same cycle. But give me your top 4, Curt. What you going with? I mean, I know 2 of them off the get-go.
Yeah, I guess.
You're probably you might be stretching it for 2 or 3. You can be around here if you got a spot around here. Okay.
I'll go Cantina 76.
What you eating there?
Tacos.
Okay.
Some chips and queso.
Me too. Tres Hombres off the get-go.
Home team barbecue.
What you getting there? Wings?
Whatever, man. Wings, barbecue, whatever that's gonna turn my face red and raise my blood pressure that day.
That's true.
Maybe one of those game changers.
Oh boy. Okay.
After that, I'm gonna go Mellow Mushroom.
Okay.
I like that bourbon place.
Yeah.
Warmouth. Warmouth, good. The times I've eaten there.
I didn't figure you was gonna go with that one. I was saving that one for my personal.
Oh, well, great minds.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm with you there. Like, home team was down in on the coast of Sullivan's Island. We've eaten down there when we went on vacation and stuff. And they came to Columbia, and the barbecue's good, and the sides are really good. The hash is all right. The collard greens and their sides are good, but their chicken wings, I think, are very underrated. Or maybe they're not underrated, but they're really good. They like a dry rub.
Alabama sauce.
Yeah, I mean, don't say that around Charles. He ain't like nothing with Alabama on it.
Or the white sauce.
Yeah, the white sauce. Yeah, white sauce. But the wings are really good. They got a good setup in there. They got, TVs. They got a bar. You can get one of them drinks that Curt's talking about. They got draft beers. And they got an outdoor section, which in South Carolina, once it gets past about May, you're not sitting outside unless you're just asking for trouble. But that's one of mine too. Right across the street's a place called Publico, probably one of the best Mexican restaurants in downtown. We go to Cantina, me and my daughter, whenever we have a birthday or a special occasion, but Publico is solid too. It's pretty similar, and I enjoy that as well. If you've never been to the Warmouth, you need to check it out. It's in the North Main, on the end of North Main, heading toward like Elmwood. Really good barbecue, whole hog barbecue, hash. They have, they'll have random stuff on there, deviled eggs, and they got something different every day. It's not really a set menu. They always got something. They got quail, or they might have some kind of fish. But every time we've been, it's been really good, and that's solid. And then my 4th, I'm just gonna go with like a grease place. I love Max Burgers. Max on Laurel Street. It's one of them top grill they cook on the flat top. but man, it's greasy and it's good. And they got the old ladies like Mel's Diner in there, you know, this old country ladies. But you get you a big old chili cheeseburger and grease is just falling out of there. There's a bunch of places downtown. No Name Deli is good. I could, back when I worked downtown, I used to eat there all the time. But that was probably my four. But if you hadn't tried Warmouth, get in there, get some of that barbecue plate. You can get it to go or eat in there, and I don't know, pretty solid. Looking forward to now that this COVID appears to be over or whatever, to getting out and getting some more of that food. It's been a while, man. Like me and you both are pretty much the same. Go to Columbia is so rare that you just go to Cantina because that's the place you hadn't been in 2 months because you hadn't been to Columbia in 2 months, you know, or your wife or one of us picks it up when we're there to bring it home to eat. It's just such a rare occasion. That place Bourbon you mentioned, I've only eaten there once. It's pretty solid as well. That Main Street area has grown up with some good food, but hoping to get out there, hoping to get to Charleston and get some Rodney Scott's barbecue, some Lewis barbecue. It's been a while, man. It's really missing out on eating food, which is probably a bad thing to say, but hey, that's what we do.
Getting up there. We like to eat.
Yeah. All right, Curt. If you ain't got nothing else, we done pretty much covered the Coach K lifespan of 40 years. We covered the 90s. We talked about the Batman. Curt gives it 2 thumbs up. $13. Don't take the young minor with you. Make sure he hit it with the PG-13 rating. Make sure you got a handful of cash though if you're gonna get big drink and big popcorn. It's gonna set you back about a $50 bill. Like I said, talked about the 90s. Talked about overspending on tea. Curt gave you some better options: Bones Coffee, Black Rifle Coffee, and then some of the best places we've eaten in Columbia. Some of our favorites, like I said, Home Team Barbecue, Cantina, Publico. Check out the Warmouth. Until next week, we'll be talking hopefully about some baseball, hopefully about some football free agency, and hopefully we eat something good this week as well. But we'll bring you the 1991 winners. We'll discuss that, and we'll start talking about the evolution of Jordan and some new stars in different sports. So until next week, for Curtis Keith.
Till next week. See you guys. Thanks for listening.